I'm so pleased that cup's in the way. I can't see your smug face. You look like Marcel Marceau with those gloves on. And that's the closest you'll get to winning that thing, you Highlanders. I can't believe they made it. Like, they were trying to lose. They're throwing intercepts the last 10 minutes and everything. I don't think they want to come to Eden Park.
Don't you worry, JK. Don't you worry. Saturday night, 7:05.
Breakdown is brought to you by Nurofen Duralast. Available every day at Chemist Warehouse.
Tēnā koutou katoa, good evening and a very warm welcome into the breakdown. Well, what a crazy final round of Super Rugby round robin matches. The usuals are in here. Jeff Wilson, great to have you back. Mills Muliaina, Sir John Kirwan, and the brand new shiny Super Rugby Pacific trophy is in the house as well.
This is some sort of trophy. And I still don't understand digital printing.
Amazing.
Digital printing created this. It's like your NFTs, don't understand them either. You didn't help me 7 days ago. I'm doing my best to catch up, but this is some sort of trophy, Mills. And I'm looking forward.
I thought 3D printing was plastic. Sorry, excuse my ignorance.
No, it can be carbon fibre, it can be different metals, JK. I Googled that before the show.
Was it heavy when you picked it up with those white gloves that you were wearing?
Well, those gloves are there. You can have a try afterwards. I'm just looking forward to who it is.
We will know. In 3 weeks' time, we already know the playoff picture is clear for the first round now. It's almost like you two are facing off against each other on the field this weekend.
Well, we know that the Highlanders made it by winning 4 games. Has that ever happened before? Or is that actually possible? Will that ever happen again? 4 games won to make the top 8. Are we taking ourselves seriously?
There's a standard, because we haven't had a quarterfinals before. You win 4 games, you make the quarterfinals every year, isn't it?
Wish I was coaching then, I might have done something.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We needed 1 point, Sir John Kirwan. That's what we needed. That's what we got. That's why we're going to Eden Park next Saturday night.
Is that why you left Frizzell home?
If we win, I'll say this right now, if we win, it will be the biggest upset in the history of Super Rugby, and it's still possible.
Was that a success for them?
Oh, absolutely. And I think given, you know, the expectation, really, that they wouldn't win a game, obviously they had their challenges as well. I think that's a huge factor. But also look at the draw and sort of what they've sort of brought. Man, there's some big physical men. I think it must be fashionable now for a back to wear sort of headbands on your head now these days. I mean, they look like forwards, but also their athleticism as well. Unbelievable. So what a fantastic way to finish the round robin.
Really, really important that both sides did what they needed to do. Thought they looked organised, won a couple of games, and I just think that's important, Mills. There was people that probably didn't think they were ready to come in, but you saw the crowds in Fiji, you saw the win in Moana Pacifica, and they're here to stay, and I think it's going to bring a whole lot more richness to our competition.
I think the foundation of the competition has now been set. We've got the 12 teams. We've managed to get out and find our way here. The great work of everyone involved to get the Drua and the Moana Pacifica teams off the ground and running. And look, it certainly hasn't been perfect. And they'll need more resource. They'll need more support. They'll certainly need to attract some more players. But if you're talking about at the end of the season, you wondered what success would look like. Yeah. I think you would say, from both sides of things, it's been an absolute winner. And now we've just got to settle on this. We keep the 8 teams in the quarterfinals. We find out what it looks like next season. I think, I look at that, JK, 8 wins got you there into 7th place. There were 3 teams that had 8 wins, which means it's incredibly competitive. Yes, it's unusual to see a team there with 4 wins. But reality for me is, I think we've set ourselves, Kirsty, for the future. We've got to now build on this.
I just want to know what happens to South Africa, Mills. Are we just not talking about them, or
I don't think
whether they come back in, or is this the trophy for the next 5 years?
I hope so. I hope it is, Mills. I hope this is the trophy, not just for 5 years, but I think for a long time, and we may expand on it.
Well, what about Africa? What happens to South Africa?
Well, they're in the other competition, aren't they? Well, I mean, the thing is, I agree with you, Goldie. I think, you know, we've for a long time, we've sort of moaned and sort of said, well, what's going on? We brought 2 teams in and we thought, you know, are they going to be competitive? And to be totally honest, also, the Aussies have been competitive too. When you talk about, you know, 8 odd games to get into the top 7, this is a really good competition. Let's like sort of, you know, nourish it now and go from there and make sure that we don't go backwards. And by going backwards, don't bring people in now next year. I mean, I know you're talking about South Africa and they're a big part of it, but let's just enjoy it now and grow on what we've created.
As the biggest, JK, but as the biggest challenge for these teams now retaining these players, because you look at like a Levi Almua and a Timothy Tavatavanawa, these guys were standouts in their teams, but they were putting their hands up across the competition as well, weren't they?
Yeah, look, that's going to be one of the big challenges, is the fact that all of a sudden we can't allow it to become a stepping stone for them to go to the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
But in saying that, they're going to need some support. It's not going to be easy to retain people and to compete financially, Mills, right? The contracts in the Northern Hemisphere, the way that they are contracted and the fact that they are treated as locals in a lot of cases means that it's going to be difficult. But we saw, just with what they've had here, in limited preparation, them being competitive. Think about what the Moana Pacific...
3 storm weeks too.
Yeah, what they went through this year.
Oh, unbelievable.
Remarkable, JK.
Yeah, unbelievable. I mean, they got hit with COVID. They played midweek. They've done everything. So they probably had the hardest battle, I believe. And I just hope that they get the support. But I also hope they go home, Mills. I hope they play a game in Samoa, a game in Tonga, because seeing the Fijian public today is just inspiring, and that's what we want. So, and I also think that this is a professional sport. For the government, for small governments like Samoa, like Tonga, to support like Fiji, look at the crowds. Look at the income that would have come into Lutoko over the weekend. So, let's hope they just go from strength to strength. I really hate to think, and I was saying, wasn't I, Mills, while we were watching Mbobo, I was saying he'll be put in France straight away. He would be devastating over there. So how do we keep them? How do we keep them?
And how do we all get to Fiji every second weekend? Because you want to be there when you see the crowds and when you see the rugby that they're producing as well. But let's take a look at the Super Rugby standings. After 15 rounds, it came down to the very last game to be able to get our top 8. The big winners of the weekend, the Chiefs jumping up to 3rd place, the Brumbies in 4th, the Highlanders, Jeff, just sneaking in. The Force did everything they could with 2 wins this week. Yeah, they did. And look, you've got to commend the fact that they knew what they had to do and they put themselves in a position. They're not thanking the Rebels, who decided to kick the ball out when they had an opportunity to maybe chase a converted try and knock them out. I was a little bit surprised on that, but I think if you look at the quarterfinals and what we've got coming up, obviously it's Friday night. It's back down in Christchurch. We just saw there once again. It's going to be cold. I was there. The Chiefs Waratahs game, that's clearly going to be in Hamilton. So advantage the home teams. I think it's the Brumbies who are the big losers out of the weekend. The big losers. Not the fact they lost, but all of a sudden now their challenge is the Hurricanes. You welcome back Geordie Barrett. Ardie Savea starts again. The Hurricanes are a team well and truly good enough to beat the Brumbies in Canberra. The big question mark is, what do you think they do, Kirsty? What do they do? They're in Perth at the moment, but they've got players still in New Zealand.
Could we
they
survive
don't come home, do they?
Could we survive a week in Canberra? I'm not sure we could.
Oh, you go late. You go Friday. That's what I'd be doing.
You fly down the day of the game?
Yeah, I'd stop in Queensland, go to the Gold Coast for a little while and then go late. But I think I would hate to get the Hurricanes, Mills, when they've got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And I think the Hurricanes, they know it's going to be a difficult ask, but with a little less pressure on them, one-off game like this, all the pressure's on the Brumbies.
Brumbies are going in, 3 losses.
Exactly.
3 losses going into the quarterfinals.
They needed momentum, and especially when you came here and that Moana Pacific game really set them back. And when you look at the last time these 2 teams played, the Brumbies actually dominated them. So who has got more to... Well, I know they've got lots to play for, but the Hurricanes now have got massive motivation to go there and do right, compared to how they played last time.
Well, can we talk about Saturday evening? 7:05's kickoff, but you'll be live from Eden Park. It's the Highlanders taking on a very refreshed Blues team, since majority of their players were rested. Do they have a chance, Jeff, after what we saw today?
Oh, look, they're the ultimate underdog going into this game. If you think about which side is going into this playoffs with the most momentum, it is clearly the Blues. The fact the season they've had. The baby Blues were able to go across the Tasman and win in the final minute. They've got everything set up for them. They've got to run home if they can win. So it's all on the Highlanders. Today, the Highlanders will be bitterly disappointed. Today wasn't good enough. Last week wasn't good enough. They've got to find something from somewhere, and they've got to... I don't know where they get it, Mills, to be fair. They're going to be heavily underdogs into this game, and I'm faithful. I'm hopeful.
You were sweating today for about 15 minutes.
I was frustrated today because I believe that they're better of so much, capable of so much more. They didn't deliver today.
we've always had that from the Highlanders. Everyone knows they're big underdogs. I think it's actually a negative for them now going into this game. Before I would say, OK, well, the quarterfinals, anything can happen. But I think the Blues are well prepared in saying, well, these guys are going to come in with a mentality that they've always been the underdogs, the little brothers that are always competing against everyone else. I think that's actually a negative. So what it comes down to, I think it's going to be the tactics they use. Brownie is going to be massive. He'll be little wee trick plays that they've sort of seen. He'll go over footage after footage after footage in terms of what the Blues have done. Can he, pick out little wee segments where he thinks they can actually score and then get the belief when their motivation is absolutely down, the belief that these guys... I mean, I'm talking about, when he came up with, who was it, kick over the top, he turned around. I can't remember the player he had at 10. But little things like that just turn the game into their sort of favour. Brownie has to pick that apart now and really get guys to believe in that.
JK is so calm. 13 straight wins this season, JK.
I mean, I just can't believe you guys just said that.
What, said what?
Said what?
They don't have a chance. They do not have a chance. I'm telling you, they don't have a chance because they...
Well, they're not going to be there. Are you telling me they're not going to make it back?
Well,
they're going to be at the
you never
ground.
know. They might have a Spates week like they used to in the old days, the week before the final. Look, it's just a matter of... If the Blues lose on Saturday, they deserve to lose and not make any further. Because right across the board, the Blues are just too strong. So they've got to go out there, do their job, and I have no problem with playing the Highlanders because this Blues team is matured. They work hard off the field. They will not underestimate the Highlanders because you never should, because you've got to pay them the respect they deserve. But they will not lose this game.
You heard it
Full
there.
stop. Move on.
Plain and simple, according to Sir John Kerwin. Righto, coming up, we pick our Super Rugby MVPs, but first we've got an exclusive look into the Highlanders documentary on their 2015 Super Rugby title. It started well before then, though.
2011, Jamie Joseph gave me a call. Hey, Nug, how are you? I got the Highlanders job. I'm recruiting players.
Banksy. I was like, I didn't know this phone call was coming. It's like, Banksy, Jamie Joe here.
You're on one of the top of my list.
And I said to him, I've already got like a wider training squad contract with the Hurricanes.
And I just pretty much let him talk like I was just a little boy at school, just listening to this big man talk to me down the phone. I was so intimidated.
Nah, bro, I want you to come down on a full training squad contract.
But you got 24 hours to make a decision, otherwise I'll get someone that wants to come.
Yeah, you put the pressure on me, 24 hours to sign that deal or I'll see you be gone, so...
I rang Warren, my manager, and we rang the Blues to say, hey, I was with you last year, I'd like to come back. You gave me my first crack, trying to be loyal to them, and then they said, we're just going to wait for Mitre 10 to happen, see how you go, and we'll offer you a contract if we think you are then. And it was just something I didn't have, it was a full contract. It wasn't a wider squad deal, the Hurricanes weren't even interested, and no other team was, and Jamie offered me my dream in a phone call.
And it's just like, yeah. I was like, I'll be down.
I rang him back probably an hour later and said, yep, I'm your man, Jamie. He goes, cool, see you soon, bro. And I was like, whoa, like crazy. Who is this guy?
OK, well, Mills, time to put you in the hot seat. He's taking off his Blues and his Chiefs hat, I'm sure, or I hope anyway, and he's actually putting his selector's hat on. Your full 15.
Let's have a look at his team. Look at his team. He's not taking one hat off, I can tell you that for a fact.
After 15 rounds, give it to us.
Well, let's just make this clear. This isn't my All Black team, OK? This is just a team that I think throughout this round robin is the form team in New Zealand. So that's how I've based my team on. So there you go, ta-da!
Here you go, JK.
Are you saying it's magic?
My hardest,
because I tell you what.
Okay. Apart from, the hardest decision for me would have to be probably 6 in hooker. Eklund gets the nod for me because I think, in terms of what he's sort of done, the way he sort of played, it was between him and Tokiaho. I know there'll be Crusader fans out there as well.
Yeah.
That'll be thinking, why is there only one Crusader there? But I actually think when you look at the whole season, Scotty Robinson has rotated the squad quite a bit. So, hence the reason Will Jordan is... You can't leave Will Jordan out, can you?
You'll be happy, JK. Are you happy with that?
He actually was screwing up his face.
There's a few too many other players in there not from the Blues, Mills. Geordie Barrett at 12.
Yeah.
Your form 12
In
of the
form
competition.
12, he's only played there
I tell you
4
why,
times.
because out of the top 20 things, he is in the top 20 for 4 different sort of things. He's a top in terms of offloads. He's second in terms of carries. In terms of his kicking metres, he's third. Post-contact metres, he's 7th. So you
But
can't
not
leave
from
him
12
out.
mils.
You can't leave it. No, you can. You can't leave him out because the fact is he was doing that sort of post. Moving into 12 from 15. And I like the fact that he's in a struggling team. That's when guys really step up. Guys, All Blacks incumbents step up. Will Jordan's just in a class of his own at the moment. He's just carving up. So I couldn't leave him out at the back. He goes to the back. Barrett goes to 12 because when I look across the board in terms of all our 12s, I don't think there's actually a standout, out-and-out 12 that will go, hey, bang, I deserve to be picked in Mills Muliaina's form 10.
How does this translate to the next level? Because you're always asking, right? Super Rugby form, do they pay attention to this? Well, you've got guys in there that aren't All Blacks.
Yeah, there are a number of players. Mark Talia is an interesting one for me. And I can't disagree with you, the fact that when the Blues have only lost 1 game all season. They've been presenting players with opportunities to shine, and a number of those guys have stood up and taken those opportunities. Finlay Christie is certainly one for that. Beauden Barrett, even though he hasn't played all of the games, every time he's been out there has clearly been influential. Tupavai's one for me, the fact that whether or not he early in the season was playing at 6, Shannon Frizzell's form before his injury was significant. And look, it's a strong group of players. Luke Romano is a very interesting one for me, though. The fact that you feel as though his body of work across this tournament to date has been good enough to say he's one of the 2 best locks that we've had through the course of this season.
Recall?
Absolutely. Now, I think what Luke has done this year in terms of his leadership, obviously getting out there, he's brought some real backbone to the Blues. JK mentioned it before, in the fact that, this Blues team is totally different. Well, one, the coaches have done an outstanding job with Leon and also Tom Coventry, but they've brought this man into the frame that takes a baby Blues team that you're talking about and has that real backbone. Over a number of years, we've gone, oh, here we go, not the Blues again, not this Blues of old again. They haven't got there. That's built around this guy who's used to be in the Crusaders. He's brought that element to it, but he's also produced the goods. And I remember talking to you that first game when he first played for the Blues. He came back and I was like, man, he's massive. He looks absolutely huge. But he went 80-odd minutes that game, and I was like, man, he has got a big engine. So from then on, all he's done is just gone from that higher, and what he's done is he's taken the whole team with him. So that backbone, I reckon, a lot of that is contributed to the way Romano has come into this and shared that.
Voce di corridoio. Voce di corridoio. We hear that he's running for mayor.
Where? In Auckland?
In Auckland. I'll vote for him. I wouldn't have made him I wouldn't have put him in my form team, Mills. But I think everything you said is true. And I think the effect that he has around the team, but also when he came on, he's been invaluable, I reckon, for the Blues. Would he be in my form?
Who would you replace him with?
The interesting one for me is there's a lot of guys who have played a few games really, really well. The likes of a Josh Lord, for example, played really, really well. Sam Whitelock's still been pretty good. They've been really, really solid for the Crusaders in the middle of their park. Remember, we're talking about form through the course of the season, but they haven't played huge number of minutes. And if you think about that I think is a significant part of what you're talking about. Form and class, and a guy like Luke Romano, he's shown his true value. This is a great story, thinking about where he was to where he's ended up and how influential. And it might just be for 1 year that he helps lead the team to a title. Impressive.
Yeah, struggling to make the Crusaders 23 down there over the last couple of years, hasn't he? Who is your MVP so far this season then, Mills?
Well, it has to be Luke Romano. Why else the thing I just spoke about? For that particular reason, I asked JK who would he replace it with. You spoke about the fact that guys haven't played enough games in terms of, influencing the fact that their form is great. But Luke Romano, to me, the reason why he is because of what his influence was for this Blues team.
Take a look at this bit of vision. JK, you'll love this. Blues 2 men down in the scrum. Watch him there. Do you see him pumping up Nepo?
Yeah.
Whacking him on the bum. They win the scrum penalty.
A prop loves a good whack on the bum too. They get motivated, especially from the lock, because, a prop always wants a lock.
That was on the Luciad side.
That is going. It
wasn't even on his side of the scrum.
I didn't know
it wasn't on the. It was on the Luciad side of the scrum with the penalty came.
I didn't recognise.
Come on now, hold on. Are you telling me, in terms of the most valuable player this year, that would the Blues have won without Luke Romano?
Yes. Surely.
So how can he be the most valuable player in this competition?
No, I think what he's produced is the fact that Luke Romana's in there. Luke Romana has changed this culture. He's changed the atmosphere in there. He's brought values, or added the values that they've been absolutely wanted. So would the Blues have won 13 in a row without Luke Romano? Possibly not.
We're not just talking about the Blues here, though, are we? We're talking about competition-wide. Who is your most valuable player, JK?
Well, I'm going to talk about the Blues. Of course, mine was Dalton Popoli. Yeah. And the reason for this is such a young man, Goldie, really good leadership skills. And if you watch him, he actually has the ability not to say a lot as well. He'll let Bowden talk. But what you're seeing on the screen now, really good turnovers at the right time, and just has continued to grow this year, and, you know, some great captain's knocks. So I think that maturity, leadership, you know, best loose forward in the country. Yours, Kirsty?
Well, I challenge any of you three to argue with me, because my MVP for 2022 is Beauden Barrett. He's a difference maker. You talk about needing a world-class first five to win a title. Well, if you look back at the champions over the last decade, they've all had international first fives, and he's been the difference for the Blues. They would not have won 13 in a row if it wasn't for this guy. Any arguments?
Look, once again, though, they won without him. They won with Stephen Pirofeta playing at first 5'8". The fact the most valuable player, if you go around and you look at competitions and teams around the world, it's about who is the guy, I believe, there's not just leading, but their out-and-out performance is affecting and helping them win on the scoreboard. Beauden Barrett's done that when he's played. I would suggest, though, and I've changed since we had the conversation this morning, I had Finlay Christie as being that guy, but then I looked deep into the fact I don't think the Crusaders are even in this conversation without Will Jordan. I think his perform this year has been so influential. The tries and creativity has shown. Had he not been playing like this, the Crusaders would not be sitting second on the table. I think his form this year has been as good as I've seen in a long time in the 15 jersey at Super Rugby level. And so for me, I think he is the most valuable player right now, because they've done a lot of it without Richie Mo'unga. Remembering that, they needed someone to step up. They've finished second on the table. The players you're talking about, great. But bottom line, I don't think they win as many games without him being on the field.
Oh, I'm OK with that. But why aren't we...
Yes, I thought I'd talk into it.
Why aren't we talking about Richie Mo'unga anymore?
Or the Crusaders.
Why aren't we talking about them?
Well, I mean, when I looked at that form 15, you were right. He's actually rotated his squad. He hasn't had a team where whether it's because of form or anything else, like his loose forwards trio, he's actually... You know, Pablo Matera has been in there. You got Cullen Grace, Quinton Strange. Then you move right through to his halfbacks that he's done over the years. In your first fives, Mo'unga hasn't been involved. Right out to your centres in there. I mean, they're valuable players. He hasn't had a settled team. Apart from Will Jordan.
It's great news on Friday night in the build-up as well that he's re-signed with New Zealand Rugby until next year after the World Cup.
That's not good news. That's not good news. I don't get that. Why would you sign him for 1 year? He obviously doesn't want to stay. I didn't think that was good news at all. I thought, wouldn't you sign Richie Mo'unga?
Well, it's nice to have it.
Yeah, it was great.
It's news.
We're going to a Rugby World Cup next year. It's nice to have a few first fives.
For 1 year.
Yeah,
surely he's the future.
That's a decision that obviously that he's in a position where he was able to negotiate that, to get himself to the fact he's got he may make a decision post the Rugby World Cup. I think it's important we get. I think this is a great conversation, though, when you start talking about Richie Mo'unga, you think about the influence he's had in Super Rugby, the number of teams and titles he's been involved with. So, who is it then who is the greatest Super Rugby player of all time? Since we started in 1996. And
the greatest Super Rugby player of all time. Carlos Spencer.
The greatest.
Yeah, and why do you think?
Because he did a Tim Tam ad.
It was actually Toffee Pops. Toffee Pops. Tim Tams are stoked with you.
Yeah, I was going to try and get that ad, but anyway. No, just the first thing I thought about, because I hadn't really thought about that question. I just thought that Carlos actually was one of the first players that just brought the game alive. Out of the box, did some amazing things. Was he the greatest of all time from a consistency point of view? You'd probably look at Luke Romano, actually. Longevity, amount of titles. Has anyone won more than him?
And these are all these things. Ruben Thorne's won more than.
See,
more than
the
him.
thing that annoys me about you, Goldie, is you can't throw out a question like that without some rules around it.
Wow, key the full framer, because I knew you'd ask.
Oh, there we go.
There's
There we go.
guidelines.
How did you know I was going to ask that?
Well, you ask it every time I throw something out there.
Yeah.
So
Give us your rules.
some of the rules, multiple super titles, I think.
Yeah, it has to be.
It has to be part of it. It's critical to team success. They are critical, like we
Can't
talked
believe
about
I'm so
today.
predictable.
Longevity.
Very.
And this is purely judged on Super Rugby performances. This has nothing to do with the way they play Test match rugby.
Yeah.
It's the fact
we've got
they've
us.
influence had on Super Rugby. And I throw this in terms of titles. Titles become important because would Ronaldo have been as great if he hadn't won titles? Would
No.
Messi have been as great if they haven't won titles? If they haven't led teams,
You've got to win.
You've got to win, right?
Got to win.
So the guys that start coming into the conversation for me, Andrew Mertens becomes part of that conversation. Our very own Justin Marshall. Justin Marshall, part of the conversation. You think about the number of titles they're involved in key positions. Do the Crusaders win these competition, Mills, without these players? And so Carlos is another, won multiple titles. I think that's critical in terms of that. I mean, where do you guys see it? Are there other players? I'll throw another couple out there for you, okay, just so you can think about it. George Gregan.
Yeah. What are you talking about? You're talking about the greatest of
Super Rugby players of all time.
Another, 10.
I mean,
Why don't we actually go away and think about this and do our 15 on those rules? We could actually ask the public to do that, because that would be a great football team.
but here's the thing, though.
I just thought you were talking about Kiwi sides, but you're saying right across the board, Super Rugby.
Well, it comes down then, you're saying performance as well. I mean, performance has to be in terms of the lead up to that. So perhaps we're not actually doing it justice when you're saying it's just for the round robin. I mean, titles is one thing. Okay, well, let's base it on all, because you're taking guys right out of it when you're saying, okay, it's only titles. Which I think that should be a criteria.
I will say someone like a Victor Matfield. When the Bulls won 3 titles in 4 years, you go, you take them out of that side, do they win? And I think that's critical. When you start talking about the best of the best, in the end, they help lead their titles in critical positions to the very, very top.
Well, it's a good teaser, but I think we should do what you say, JK. Go away, have a think about this. If you've got your own, I was going to say email, if you've got your own team, jump on email or on our Sky Sport Rugby Instagram page and email through your team. And we will try and get that for you. Righto, after the break, we are chatting about the All Blacks loose forward mix. Who makes it and who doesn't, according to these guys. But first, the trivia question. You all ready? They all sit back and they get a bit
trivia question.
That was a trivia question. That was
they
it.
get nervous. Right, you can play again at home as well. The question for today is, what happens next?
As the Crusaders keep the pressure on, Fotoli'i fires it away to Todd. Put on his back, Todd. What a good tackle that was. About 10 to go as the Crusaders keep the pressure on. Fotoli'i fires it away to Todd. Put on his back, Todd. What a good tackle that was.
One more chance. Welcome back into the breakdown. That is your trivia question for today. What happens next? I heard 2 people that are confident and the other person's not playing. He's not playing anymore.
I'm not playing because it used to be called trivia, not what next. You've changed the game on me. It's unfair.
That hasn't made a
New
difference.
rules.
You didn't get the other ones either, JK.
But I think I know what happens.
Do you? We'll say. It will give you the opportunity to go first.
Richie McCaw gets penalised and the Reds win the game.
No.
Okay.
Do you want to go?
Well, the ball gets turned over. Will Guinea gets it. He dances around, smokes through, goes around and then ends up scoring a try.
Yeah. It was an impressive try. It was amazing.
It was pretty
Will Guinea scores a try.
Let's have a look.
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
And he had it ripped away, did Matt Todd. And now the Reds through Guinea. Off goes Will Guinea. He's away. He's up the middle. Now he can't find anybody. Here comes Cooper. Lining him up, still going. Guinea. Oh, what a try. Goodness me.
Wow.
Zach Guilford, I remember watching it live, just had to tackle him. Zach ran off, he just had to turn in. The other guys were covered.
Was
Mind
that
you,
the year
was
they
amazing.
won?
That was the year they won. And it was amazing. It was amazing over there. Quade Cooper was at his very, very best. Will Guinea was amazing. Great combination.
Another world-class first five, right?
World-class first five. He was that year anyway. Oh, and last year, to be fair.
Righto, the All Blacks squad for the year is not too far away from being announced. Last week we talked about the backs. This week we're talking about the loose forwards, and we've asked these guys to put together who would start for the All Blacks at 6, 7, 8, who's on the bench and who is the injury replacement. Let's take a look at what they have decided. Some of these may surprise you. Everyone is picking Ardie Savea at 8. I am shocked that all three of you have dropped Sam Cane, our captain.
I haven't dropped him.
Well, he's not starting. So he's obviously not our captain.
No, he's our captain.
Well, is he captaining them from the bench?
He's injured, isn't he?
No, I've got him at 6.
He's injured.
He's coming back. Yeah. Don't use injury.
No, I mean, you can't pick him if he's injured.
Oh, mate, we didn't say that on our call this morning. Come on.
I'm the only one that picked our captain.
I picked him.
He's picked him at 6.
You picked him at 6.
I'll tell you the reason why I picked him.
Tell us why.
You need to explain this.
Okay, so this is the reason.
Where are you going to get your line-out ball from your loose forward?
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, but we're talking. Okay, so they are an line-out, but Papali'i's a line-out option as well. But I've left him there because I think Papali'i is out and out the informed 7. He needs to stay there. So don't move him out of position. Don't give him a positional change or number change and move him into 6 because I want him there. So Sam Cane comes in there for a particular reason. That is turnover ball. Okay, so he's 6th in this competition, or 10th in the competition at turnover balls. I want him in there for that. Papali'i, he doesn't figure in the whole 20. So what he does feature in Papali'i is the fact that he can actually, running meters, tackles. I think we're number 1 or 2 in terms of the tackles that he actually makes. So there's a balance in terms of that. Ardie Savea, carry meters, post meters as well. He's in the top 20 for many sort of features in many sort of aspects. So there's a rounded game there. But what I want Sam Cane to come back, and he's had a massive couple of years. Don't get me wrong. The fact he's gone through some huge injuries, I think get him back and get him used to that sort of test match footy where you just think, those turnovers are crucial. When you get those couple of turnovers, they turn into points, and that's what you need at the next level when you get to the All Blacks.
Interesting, Mills. Well presented with facts and figures. I have a question for you both before we move on. Will the All Blacks pick on super form, or will they pick on service to the All Blacks, which has been part of what they do, and I don't have any prejudice one way or the other? Because if that's the case, then does form come into it?
Look, they're picking 36 players. It is a big squad. They've got the ability to pick on both. They absolutely have. But the incumbents who have played over the last couple of years are going to have the inside running. The guys who have been part of their team, they have been loyal to, have been out with injury. I'll be clear on, Sam Cane wasn't featured on my list. He is well and truly in my squad. I am pure and simply going on, he's an out-and-out 7 for me at an international level, and I know what he's going to give us. Dalton Papali'i in the last 12 months has delivered for the Blues and for the All Blacks. He needs an opportunity to see whether or not he can take it to the next level. That's why I've got him in that position. The moment he's not available, Sam Cane is starting for me at 7, because at the international level, the physicality he brings, as you say, Mills, is 100% right there. So I'm looking at a different balance with Tupavai at blindside flanker. I want size. I want someone who is going to bring us a different type of mentality at blindside flanker, similar to Shannon Frizzell. I want a 1-2 punch in that position. I don't believe Scott Barrett gives us that now in the blindside flank position. Akira Ioane has still got work to do to get back to where he showed what he's capable of.
For so long we've talked about size, right? Replacing Jerome Kaino. What do you think, JK, that we need in our loosies mix?
I've always liked loose forwards with a balance. So I think that what we get with Akira is actually that out-and-out X factor. He can play. He can make a difference. He's our current incumbent at 6. So if you're talking about people that should play, I think the balance with him and then Ardie, who gives us a combination now. I think Ardie over the last couple of years does give us that ability to have turnover but also carry the ball. So I just think if we want to play an expansive game, want to be really threatening in our attack, I would like to see that mix. Papali'i, Akira and Ardie Savea. I think it's a great mix.
Yeah. The interesting one for me is look, I'm concerned right now about our genuine other option at 8. Who is that? who's a genuine other option at number 8 for the All Blacks?
I think Hoskins Tututu has, I thought he had a bit of second-year blues last year, but I think he's been really strong this year. And I think he's a real option. Like, when he picks the ball up from the base of the scrum and accelerates, not too many number 8s can do what he can do. Now, he started to tackle way better with shoulder. He's probably not accelerating into contact like he did a couple of years ago, but I just think he's had a really strong season. He's in the mix.
Sorry, Mills.
But I also think you've got to get the balance right in terms of who you bring on. Peter Gassel-Kula probably does the same job as well in terms of what impact are you having. I suppose there's no sort of arguing the fact that, Ardie Savea is the actual number 8. Who comes off the bench? And you think, Peter Gus can fit that mould. But also, Blackadder, he can play all 3 positions. Do you have him in there? I guess when I come back to my Lucy's, I think there's a real balance in there in terms of, turnover ball. Papali is a hard hitter. He replaced him, even though he's not got number 7 on. You're getting that Jerome sort of hard-hitting guy.
I don't think you've got the size to carry and gain line with size, with power. Ardie's aggressive, he uses his footwork, but in terms of just poor carry, get the ball in your hands and go forward, a big frame. Frizzell did that before he got his injury. I think something that's really, really important, and you need line-out options. You can't just operate with 2 guys at lock, and 2 locks, and then those 3 for me. I know you can mix things up, but you need another big body. The thing with me as well, Ethan Blackadder, I don't think he can play 8. I'm convinced he can play 6 and 7. No issue with that. The finer skills of a number 8 is exactly what Hoskins Tututu has shown. But Ethan Blackadder, for me, played some huge minutes as well. Huge minutes. I'm not sure, once again, is he going to give us that option? Good line-out option. You can't argue with his work rate, but once again, is he a big enough frame? When you get against the big boys, when Ireland and South Africa.
Are you now saying that Tupai Vai is now a genuine 6 and we leave him out? Not a lock, that you'd start at lock and say, well Sam Whitelock, he's obviously a leader. You got Retallick who's injured. He could possibly slot in that lock. But you're saying he's an out-and-out Lucy.
Oh, he can play both. He can absolutely play both. I'm just looking at the pure athleticism and size. My concern right now is the fact he's gone back into playing so much at lock. Josh Lord's a really interesting player for me. I just think these areas, if we're going to find out about players, and you keep talking about it, JK, we're running out of time, about finding out whether these guys can cut it.
Yeah, we can keep talking about this for a long time, can we? But we will find out who is in that All Blacks squad. June the 13th, we'll be there and we'll have exclusive access to that on the All Blacks YouTube channel. So do make sure you're joining us for that one. Right, it's been a couple of finals over the weekend. One that has just wrapped up in Japan. It was Robbie Deans against Eddie Jones. And, JK, the Wild Knights.
Did they get up?
18-12. They got up.
He's been amazing
Japan
over there, Robbie Deans. He loves it. I know he loves it, but I mean that would be some sort of record. How many is that? 5 in the last 8 years, Mills.
Same 2 teams every year, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the same 2 teams every year.
There is.
No, Colbert won it a few.
Toshiba have dominated for a wee while, but that's pretty impressive. So he's obviously gotten well used to the culture, the style they absolutely play, but to win it like that, far out.
31 wins on the bounce. Haven't dropped a game.
Yeah, and it's impressive. There's no doubt about it. That is a concern for me, though, that they're that dominant. You need investment from other companies to try and make sure that it's a lot more competitive. If you start talking about expanding the game and bringing them into play against, say, Super Rugby teams or playing against Northern Hemisphere teams, are they going to be prepared well enough for that sort of competition?
Just quickly, what Robbie Dean said earlier in the week, that All Blacks will start to be picked out of this Japanese competition. Is that going to happen?
Well, we've been saying that for a long time. One of the alternatives of not actually losing players overseas is to have a competition where you can pick your All Blacks from. And I've got no issues with it. I have absolutely no issues with Damien McKenzie coming straight back into the All Black squad. I think we need to start doing what's best for us. And if I'm not saying wholesale changes, but for me, I've got no real issues with it.
Well, the other big final over the weekend was over in the UK and Europe. The European Cup final, Jeff. La Rochelle, led by Ehire West, over Leinster.
It's their first major title. And just listen to the crowd, the celebrations, Mills. You think about, this is what we should be heading towards right now, right? In 3 weeks' time, wherever this final may be of Super Rugby Pacific, this is what we want. This wasn't a flash game by any stretch of the imagination, but it was tense, it was passionate, and Ehire West, former Hurricane, New Zealand Māori player.
Blues.
Blues, yeah. He was.
That's why he left. Is that why he left?
Yeah.
He could still be here, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
He'd still be here, maybe. But bottom line, I thought it was great. It was a wonderful occasion.
Can we bring a concept like this to the Southern Hemisphere?
We must.
How do we do it?
Can we? Well, we need to show some courage and start doing it. Like, next year we need to start saying, bring the Japanese clubs. Like, Goldie, I know for a fact that the Japanese clubs will invest, they'll buy more players if they have a worldwide competition. I mean, these are worldwide companies and they think professionally. I mean, if you're, Suntory, you want to get on the world stage, they will reinforce. So for me, we must do this if we want to compete with the Northern Hemisphere. Plus, we need more money coming into the game so we can retain our players. For me, it's a no-brainer. When are we going to do it?
Mills, that could be Thursday, right? Because Thursday New Zealand Rugby finds out whether or not
Big
whether or not the Silver Lake deal is on.
Oh, we're still talking about it, are we?
Oh, is it back on?
Oh!
We'll be talking about it Sunday.
What, Thursday?
We'll be this
December
Thursday.
the Thursday, December something?
Are you two going to survive the week before you go head-to-head in the quarterfinals on Saturday? Highlanders Blues?
Are you game to turn up?
Was it a bottle of wine last time we did that? Are we back on again?
Yeah, I know.
Back on again?
Yeah, well, that's... yeah, double or nothing. Double or nothing.
Done.
I'll be there. I hope everyone else is there too. Let's go on. Celebrate.
Good.
Let's celebrate. It's going to be awesome.
Well, Mels, you're lucky your two teams don't have to play each other this weekend, but do enjoy the quarterfinals. The playoffs are here. How good is it to have it all live and exclusive on Sky Sport? But sit back, relax, and enjoy this beautiful moment by Moana Pacifica.
Mana Moana Alamai sees the energy of the Moana rise with it, a tribute to all that is sacred and special to this team.
What's the bounce like? What's the kick like? It's brilliant! What's the chase like? It's magic! Danny Koala, can you believe it?
Fires it away, there's numbers to burn, and William Havili scores. They take it to the short side. Ball's still alive, but over the line, it's a try! Mana Moana Alamai, sensational finish to their first season in Super Rugby.
Breakdown is brought to you by Nurofen Duralast. Available every day at Chemist Warehouse.